Once you get into religion, you gotta watch yourself. It's worse than politics, bruh. I tell you right now, the politicians will want to burn your house. The religious guy's gonna burn your soul. In this hour, in our weird and wonderful feature, I'm going to be speaking to Savyasachi Das Prabhu. I call him Sbuddha, my favorite monk. And we're going to be talking about Guru Purnima. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. But I'm made to understand that it's a celebration of all teachers, spiritual, academic, who've contributed to the knowledge of mankind in one way or the other. And it is a very, very important festival or a celebration in the... I keep wanting to be sure. Is it?
In Buddhism, in Jainism.
Okay.
Eastern
philosophies and right. So because once you get into religion, you gotta watch yourself. It's worse than politics, bruh. I tell you right now, the politicians will want to burn your house. The religious guy's gonna burn your soul, bruh. So Guru Sbuddha, how are you doing, my brother? You well?
I'm well, Aubrey.
Listen, so you're going to talk to me a little bit about Guru Purnima, and I'd love to hear what are some of the things that our listeners know about this, because it's always wonderful to have that interactive sort of relationship whenever we're having a conversation. But you're back. You've been doing some traveling throughout the world, speaking fighting the good fight of making people understand deeper concepts. How's that been going?
Oh, that's been fire, as they say. It was really good. Just recently came from Zambia, Malawi, and I found really that humans are always thirsty to connect.
Yeah.
And Malawi was really a different type of human being, really deeply spiritual, religious.
Deep.
And very warm people. I didn't see not one person smoking on the streets.
Yeah. No, I love Malawi and Malawians. I love the food there by the lake. I had a girlfriend from Malawi at some point when I was younger. And I did find that she was less confrontational
than some which always works well.
than some of my other girlfriends. So yeah, no, I think I can identify with some of the stuff that you are going to be telling us about, and of course your experience with Malawi. Guru Purnima, what is that?
Guru. This word has become like a worldwide word. I mean, it's used for people that teach so many things. Management guru, someone who's expert in the field. It's a Sanskrit word with two syllables. Gu would mean darkness, and Ru, one who removes darkness. So we can understand that as a student in any field, then we are generally ignorant or unaware of many details of said subject, and thus comes along Guru, who will then teach and give light to different topics, different subject matters, different practices.
I identify with that terminology. Now I'm not sure whether you're aware of it, but the root meaning of Sanusi in the African context is very close to that. Some people change it and say Usiazi, right? He who bears knowledge. But Sanusi is closer to that of Guru because it is about the removal of darkness. Yeah? Yes. Darkness in the spiritual form, darkness in the ignorance form. And so I'm beginning already to hear similar sort of ideas coming out of there that we here on the continent tend to talk about. The name Sanusi is very similar in etymological meaning to what you've just explained about Guru. So yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. There's a position in society for those who can be said to be like the head of the society. If you take society as a body, then there's the head. There will be the intellectuals, the thinkers, the spiritual, the saints, those who can tell us where we're going. Then you have the arms that are protecting the administrators, then the belly is the agriculture, the food, and then the legs is the workers. So teachers are available at every level to allow society to function. And whether it's learning how to ride a bicycle, you'll find like in the East, it's my driving guru.
Right, right.
But it goes more and more into the aspect of learning the difference between transcendence and the material understanding. So guru is to be accepted if one wants to understand that which is beyond one's sense perception. But guru also doesn't stand alone, which is the very interesting thing, is that these days we may have self-made gurus, but there must be shastra, which means scripture, there must be other saintly persons, and guru. So then it becomes like a 3-point check system.
And that's where it gets its legitimacy from, I suppose, yeah?
Yes.
I'm arguing, and it's a conversation that I'm having at various levels, that the biggest challenge in the world at the moment is one of legitimacy. Given the fact that we all have access to information, right? And because we have access to information and we've got social media platforms, anybody that can type and have a couple of thousand followers is somehow given the status of some sort of expert, maybe even guru. So you say that in order for somebody to be understood in Eastern philosophy as a guru, there are two other legs other than himself that he has to stand on in order to enjoy that legitimacy. One is
the scriptures,
yeah,
and the other is other saintly persons within a disciplic line.
Peers. A peer review council.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask you to join us in this conversation on 011-883-0702. We are learning about Guru Purnima and continue. So, before you continue, important that you were saying that as much as guru, expert, is part of the head in that sort of physiological analogy you were giving us, but we also need gurus in the hands, we need gurus in the stomach, we need gurus in the legs. So at each aspect of our being, it's not just intellectual exercises, but even those exercises of our lives that have to do with operational stuff, we need gurus there.
Yes, because knowledge has to be passed on from those who know, who have experience, to those who need to acquire that experience. And so, as you mentioned, legitimacy. Someone has to give the stamp of approval. This one has been trained. This one now has the insights. Then this one can now teach others. And so that principle runs through every aspect of our social lives or spiritual lives.
So, Guru
Purnima.
Purnima. What is that?
This Purnima means the full moon. So in the
like now, like what's happening
exactly.
right now, right? Yeah.
Yes. So the East generally is using the lunar calendar.
Right.
And so this July, August time, the certain full moon is the Guru Purnima, where in all the cultures they celebrate their different teachers, and it's specifically to remember the teachings, because the body of the guru, that doesn't last very long. He can live however many years, but the instructions, the precepts, the teachings that he imparted, also the mood with which he operated, then the students get to remember that, discuss that, and glorify or exalt, and so that others can see what value he brought. Yeah. So
why at this point in time? Why the moon?
Well, the moon is either, full or gone. And so when it's full moon, then it is dispersing the greatest auspiciousness. Also, the moon is, you could say, the deity of the mind. If you ever notice yourself on full moon, there's a little bit of an energy in the air that
man. Hey,
that
know
can be very dangerous.
Yeah,
also.
I hear you, man. I hear you. We had an interesting show yesterday, and I thought to myself, maybe it has something to do with the fact that it's full moon time. But I get it. If I can paraphrase, you're saying to me that the moon is understood in those terms because it is the light in darkness.
Yes, it is also bringing like the cooling rays which we need to operate within this world, which is, you could say, it's a fire of material existence. So the moon is seen like that, as bringing the cooling rays. And so those who especially are giving knowledge helps to cool the fire of material existence. As our own Madiba had been quoted, about education being very important, because when you know, then you are informed and you have more choices. So teachers are very important in society. Generally, they are not celebrated much, but without them, all the experts in different fields would not exist.
True. And so Guru Purnima is not just the celebration, if I understand you correctly, of the Eastern teachers and experts. It is the celebration of all teachers.
In the East, then specifically, they are celebrating those teachers in the different disciplinary lines. But because we're living in this global environment, so to let everyone in to understand what it is, specifically within the Vedic culture, there is a specific teacher by the name of Veda Vyasa. So he's the author of this Vedic knowledge, and he is understood as like the original guru, because he is a literary incarnation of God, Krishna. So on this day, it is understood, especially those who are transmitting spiritual knowledge coming from the Vedic canon, that they are representative of that original teacher who penned down the knowledge when this age began, where memories were not so good to propagate that oral culture. So for the whole world, what you can pick up from that is that we have to honor the teacher, and we have to understand the etiquette that comes with dealing with the teacher, so that knowledge can be transmitted.
I get that. And I appreciate that there is a culture that celebrates the teacher, right? I appreciate that there is a culture that celebrates knowledge, but legitimate knowledge. Yeah, because in a world of relativity, in a world where an argument is won not by an answer but by a question, knowledge becomes illegitimate sometimes, right? And I'm not saying that questions are wrong. I mean, I live by questions. That's my work, right? But we are in a dangerous space in a knowledge economy where just because you can type 143 characters, you can have the power to precipitate something very, very big. Give me a call, 011-883-0702, and I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about some of the issues that are being raised by my personal favorite guru, Guru Smuda? We're talking about the celebration of Guru Purnima. I'm interested to get a better understanding of why it is important to celebrate teachers. Why? I mean, other than to simply say that all other experts and teachers in all other fields would not be without teachers, I sense that there is something more there. There's a more esoteric reason as to why we need not only to know that our teachers have a particular role, but also to celebrate them.
Yes, it is mentioned that we're all born in ignorance, that we all understand. The baby doesn't know 1, 2, 3, ABC. And so that is just on the mature front, that we are born without knowledge. And so we require knowledge to be able to function properly. So deeper than that is that we require knowledge of self. And knowledge of self is already there within the heart of every living being. It is simply covered.
Still occult.
Yes. So the teacher, the guru, is bringing that knowledge that illuminates the heart, which is covered by ignorance of the soul. So because of that, the teacher is also a via medium of that transcendental knowledge. We give an example, like you're wearing glasses, Aubrey.
Yeah.
So the glasses are right before your eyes and before any object you're trying to see. So, but they are there not to block your vision, but to enhance your vision. And so if you take it a little further, any powerful, like telescope, it's more powerful with more lenses that are there.
Right.
So the guru is not giving his own knowledge, is simply amplifying the knowledge from the original guru, the supreme person who gives all knowledge. So although it's right there in front of your eyes, is not meant to block your understanding, but to bring clarity. So disciplic line means all the different teachers are simply bringing the knowledge of the soul transcendence and how to become happy. They're making it clearer and clearer. So it is safer when one's guru is a disciple, and
because then he enjoys that discipline, but also the legitimacy that you were talking about earlier.
Yes, he's protected from becoming puffed up to think that he is in fact the source of knowledge, because students revere the teacher, and if the teacher starts to think that actually I am the source of knowledge, then that is his fault.
So I have conversations with academic professors about issues that range from economics to politics. And I had a conversation a few weeks ago with a professor that taught me a very, very powerful term. He said it's epistemic humility. And it is precisely what he was saying there, that what you are saying there right now, to say that teachers, experts, gurus must be willing to humble themselves to the idea that the knowledge that they possess is not theirs.
Yes.
You've just filled in the other side of that equation for me to say, and to also provide themselves as lenses for the clarification of whatever it is that we need to understand.
Yeah. Because the guru is now living in the times that you are in. So then also he can give light to the particular details of your life as to how to apply that knowledge.
My guest is Savi the monk, Guru Sbuddha, and we're talking about the observance or the celebration of Guru Purnima, and it is a celebration of knowledge bringers, experts, of those who are the minds of our body of humanity. And very, very, very interesting conversation. I wanted to ask Sbuddha whether this is a religious practice. Is this a religious practice? I'll tell you. I have a feature called Guanti on Thursdays, and sometimes I listen to how we speak about spirituality, and then we'll say African spirituality, and I find that to be a misnomer. And I know I'm going to get into trouble with some of my very good friends who come and visit me here on that. I find that to be an absolute misnomer. I'm happy to accept spirituality as experienced by Africans.
Yes.
Because spirituality, in my opinion, is a universal truth, reality, and it's absolute. It's universal. In fact, it's galactical, right?
Yes, intergalactic.
It's intergalactical. And we may have a very unique experience of that very vast reality here on the African continent, and therefore give it our names, our interpretations. And the people in China will do the same. The people in the Middle East will do the same. The people in Australia, in the far west, will do the same as experienced by them. But this idea of owning spirituality, this is African spirituality, for me is a little dumb and very limiting. What you're explaining now, I've heard in other worldviews and philosophical traditions. Here on the continent, I've heard, I mean, we've just gone through a season of initiation of young boys into manhood and so forth. The getting of a name, Yaboholo. Like you've gotten a name, Yaboholo, in the initiation process that you followed. Guru Savi Monk. I'm giving you a new one.
Sabyasachi.
Yes, Sabyasachi. All of these principles sound very familiar to me. They're not strange to me.
Yes.
Is this a religion, or what are we talking about?
We're talking about universal principles that are first religious, in that we're setting the platform of some do's and don'ts, some guidelines that will secure one before they launch into the spiritual. So Ado Guru Padashaya, it said in the Sanskrit language, that in the beginning one has to approach a guru. So that applies everywhere. To learn something, you have to approach a teacher. So the religious aspect of it is that the teacher has to be imparting knowledge that brings you to the level of comprehending the spiritual reality. What he's teaching you has to bring you out of this bodily concept of life, where we think spirit has to do with geography, and then we take that which is universal and we
regionalize it,
yes,
and religiousise it.
And then that's when we divide spiritual beings into different pockets based on the lower principle of their birth continent or their race.
And that's where racism and all sorts of things actually find their genesis.
Yes. Like in this sense, as we're discussing today, trying to allow the listeners to understand that they are also part of this spiritual culture of learning from Guru. The canon may be Vedas in the tradition that I am practicing, for example, but Veda means knowledge. Just as Guru means one who removes the darkness of ignorance, teacher.
Sure.
So these are universals.
Sure.
And so now we have to look for that comprehensive knowledge that we can apply in our own lives. So religion and philosophy. Religion with philosophy removes sentiment. Philosophy without religion is speculation. That we find a lot of, that I can think about what it is all about and I can type that and tweet it out, but my own speculation cannot be taken as valid knowledge, at least on the absolute sense. It can be taken as personal experience.
Martin Coleman asks, as he always does, powerful questions. He says, Aubrey, what is the ultimate goal for all of these great lessons? Sure, know thyself is great, but what is the final purpose of these teachings? Martin, maybe there's no finality to this thing, but let's hear what the Guru has to say.
Prema, it's said in the Sanskrit language, love. We are seeking to be completely enchanted by love. So love of the supreme lovable person. That is what the heart is looking for. So in all our endeavors, working up early, working, raising the kids, keeping good health, we want to be in a position where we can reciprocate with the greatest reception of love. So the goal of life is to love the most dreaded word, the God, to love the Supreme Being.
I'm hearing that all of this is a search for the eternal.
Yes.
I had a conversation over the weekend with a very old man in a place called Ramokheletsane in Siyabuso. And he said to me, Masango, Rabata Hoyawi. And the question that Martin is asking is similar to a question that I was asking. Because, and he was pointing out that Hoyahuile is that which is without end. And then also said to me that because that which we are trying to attain never had a beginning. So we are trying to get to that place. So the moment you get to understand something, there'll be something else to try and attain. The moment you try to, so it's that eternal experience of love that you're talking about.
An ever fresh experience, you know.
Ever fresh experience. Wow, bruh. Oh, no, that's cool. That is some nice stuff right there. An ever fresh experience, yeah?
Yes, because things in this world are tainted by this beginning and end.
Yeah.
And so there's always that fear of losing whatever we think we have grasped. So we belong in that never-ending space where there's no old age, disease, birth, and no suffering. It's actually called in the Sanskrit Vaikunta, the place of no miseries. Hence, we are always trying to make this world free of miseries. But this is unattainable within these dimensions.
Yeah.
So when the soul is aiming for that eternal world, then there needs to be some guidance.
Sure. You talked about the rays of the moon being what?
Cooling.
Cooling rays.
Cooling.
Talk to me about that.
We have a fever. This is the material fever, where we are thinking that the vehicle which we are residing in is who we ultimately are. And therefore, we've become servants of the machine, whereas the machine has to serve the driver. So transcendental knowledge is coming into that space where the fever is high and it is bringing it down so that we become sober. It is discussed that actually the sober person has control of their senses, the tongue, the belly, and the genitals.
Oh, yeah.
If one is in control of these in a straight line, then one is fit to make disciples, meaning he can give discipline of other people's minds and senses, help them to control them so that they are fully engaged in cultivating one's deepest self-interest.
The love of the flesh, the love of money, and the pride of life is also explained in other traditions about exactly what you just talked now, that if you can be able to conquer that, then you are a candidate for teaching.
And the one thing which is good is that utility is the principle. So everything has to be used in its best, you could say, potential. So the guru, the teacher, is helping us how to deal with material energy, not just to run away from it, but how to engage it so that it uplifts ourselves, our community, the world. So even something like money, may be seen as though it is only just bad. But no, the knife in a doctor's hand cuts the tumor out and saves your life, but the knife in the hand of a criminal.
Oh, 018830702 is the number to dial. Would love to hear from you. This is a very erudite conversation with Guru. What up? Hey, talk to me about spirituality and how it connects to practicality. Yeah? Because I think that is part of the fever that you are talking about, that keeps us away from that ever fresh experience, right? Because I think what happens is that we get ourselves caught up in trying to explain the spiritual through the practical. Or is that necessarily wrong? I mean, I'm asking that because of what you've just talked about, that utilitarian sort of thingy that you just
So basically what that would mean is to understand that the energy that we're working with, what we know as matter, has its source.
Yeah.
So it has divine origin. It is just like electricity. The expert electrician can use it for cooling and also for heating. So for the electrician, it is the same energy, whether it's functioning as a heater or a cooler. So in the same way, material energy is divine from the perspective of the source of all energy, the Supreme. So being practical means that we are able to see what we're dealing with, and we don't try to divorce it from its source. We see it all the way back to the source. So that we come out of the position of children, for example, who think water is coming out of the tap. But the broader vision, the grown-up, understands that there's some reservoir of water somewhere in the city.
Yeah, well, my kids think that boerewors come from the butchery.
You see what I mean?
And it doesn't.
There's some...
I mean,
Yeah.
so we went to a thing this weekend, and they saw slaughter.
What actually happens, yeah.
My kids are still traumatized right now. Really, they are.
Mm.
And I kept on saying, that's where the boerewors come from. Because my son, he loves boerewors, right?
Mm.
And I said, that's where it comes from. That's where it comes. He says, I'm never gonna eat boerewors again. I'm never gonna eat boerewors again. All right. So I hear you. So it's really that understanding of going back to understand what is happening here.
Yes.
There's a saying amongst the Far Eastern people that when the student is ready, then the master will appear. The master, the guru will appear. But you said something very interesting. You said that we go to a guru.
Yes.
Just explain to me that anomaly.
So when one is feeling perplexed about the issues of one's existence, then one starts to ask questions, why? What's going on?
Mm.
So within that...
Say what kind?
What kind?
What's up?
Keep on.
Yeah.
So within the heart is another aspect of Guru, known as Chaita Guru, or the original Guru, the aspect of the divine within the heart.
Right.
So he sees, he hears, understands our needs, and then arranges, people, places, books, for you to connect and get those types of answers. So the initiator is ourselves wanting to know, wanting to change.
The fire of the questioning mind, the thirst to try and understand. Yeah, I almost remember to the day when that happened for me. Right, when I started to say, things don't look like the way that I've been taught they are. Right. Of course, subsequently, I also realized that there were certain teachings that I wasn't ready for at certain points of my life, right? That distorted and contorted my understanding of things, which is sometimes very dangerous. The availability of knowledge, if not curated, if not given in the dosages that are required by the needer of the knowledge, yeah?
Perfect analogy, because the pharmacy is full of medicine.
Yeah.
But we don't just go in there and grab our own medicine. Somebody who's expert at how the medicine should work should then prescribe that and tell you at what intervals to take it. So the spiritual master or the guru is actually the friend of the seeker, acts as a guide and advisor, and sometimes also as, you know, the transcendental or the peer pressure that we need, because sometimes we aren't willing to take the next step because we are
it's like a coach. A coach shows you the aspiration, but he's also got the stick to motivate you correctly to move forward, because sometimes you don't like to move forward.
Yes, you want that well-wisher who's also your number one critic, but it's in your favor to show you where you may lack.
The teacher, the proverbial teacher, is in danger right now. I mean, the proverbial teacher is in danger more than the rhino, bro. You know what I'm saying? Firstly, we are, and the reason why I say that is because we are in a time and a society that is exposed to so much knowledge right now, so much information, so much data. I mean, it's limitless, right? But because of its availability, because I can simply type in a question into a search engine and I get all sorts of answers, I'm not getting the answers that have been tempered by experience for my unique situation. I'm simply getting data being given back to me. But what's happening is that more and more people are beginning to think, I don't need the teacher.
Yes.
I mean, I had this conversation with a very good friend of mine who's a partner of mine in the online education space. And I said, listen, we need to work, we need to be concerned about that. Because if online is going to remove the teacher, the individual, the person, we need to be very, very careful, because we're not going to be providing the tempered teaching that is required by very unique circumstances. Talk to me about how we save for ourselves the teacher.
It is something which is, as you mentioned, endangered, because, you know, there's information and then there must be realized knowledge. So there needs to be application of that information. In today's world where the algorithm will decide which answers you get on Google. So whoever has fed the machine to rank higher, then that becomes, you know, page one of Google. That's where your answers come from. So we have to understand that knowledge as experienced by other individuals is much more uniquely useful, because humans are also undergoing the same environment which we're in.
Yeah.
We're all dealing with practically the same environment of whether it's old age, it's disease, it's birth, it's financial crisis, it's relationships.
Yeah.
So one who has walked the path, but indlela ibuzwa kwabayihambile. So looking back doesn't hurt at this point. How have our ancestors and our forebears, how did they learn? How did they understand the world? And actually it's not broken and we're trying to fix it. What we're doing actually is that we are simply exposing ourselves to information that is tailor-made to impact you, specifically to turn a buck.
Are you worried?
I am, because if you go even at different institutions of especially spiritual knowledge, people feel like, why waste my time? I meet people on the streets, for example, and I'm dressed as a monk, they're curious, and they ask a question, and then sometimes they tell me, no, just tell me where I can find this book, I'll Google it myself.
Yeah.
So meaning the person who's living and that information is right in front of you, but you feel it's too cumbersome to deal with a person, that you go to the impersonal structures.
Guru Purnima, are you going to come back again?
Definitely.
Let me tell you this, Shanitha Naidu, thoroughly enjoying this conversation. Shanitha, thank you very much, and many of you who are sending some very, very inspirational messages, thank you so much. Listen, I think we've done a fitting observance of Guru Purnima today.
We
Yeah?
did.
I think we did. Yeah,
Yes.
I think it was pretty
We
cool.
did.
How do people get in touch with you?
On social media, Savia the Monk, S-A-V-Y-A.
You must slot in Buddha the Guru there.
I'll put it as an AKA since
Yeah.
you've given it.
Yeah,
You've given it some
classified
right.
it. Right.
So Savia the Monk, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on those pages you'll find out how to get to where I am.
Always inspirational talking to you. Thank you very much for
Same
coming
here,
to the
Aubrey.
studio. Let's take a break. When we come back, Eyewitness News.